In just one short week, Steam Deck has beaten both Nintendo and Sony at their own game. First, it's well documented that the Nintendo Switch is showing its age, but a new port of an old game also shows that it's not just about hardware, but perhaps more important are the benefits of having a well-optimized port in the first place. Yes, even if it means delaying the game, because after all, late is just for a little while, suck is forever. And then there's the PS Portal. I caught a lot of grief in my last video because I had the nerve to actually enjoy the PS Portal, but even for me, there's no denying that the Portal is a unitasker. That's why I called it a pizza cutter. But if the PS Portal is a pizza cutter, then the Steam Deck is probably the best Swiss Army knife you can find, and it was just proven once again this week. The Steam Deck already has benefits over the PS Portal, and the Steam Deck OLED builds on those benefits with a network card that's better than what is in Sony's accessory, but the Steam Deck's list of benefits just grew with a big update on the Steam Deck that adds functionality that you won't find in the PS Portal. The point of all of this is that the Steam Deck is for the gamers in more ways than one. Part of that is thanks to Valve building a storefront, launcher, and operating system specifically designed for gaming. Part of that is due to the inherent flexibility of PC gaming, and part of that is thanks to the community stepping in where there are gaps to be filled. But this week in Deck News is not just about Sony and Nintendo. There are also some new SteamOS updates, some big game updates, Windows handhelds potentially following the Steam Deck's lead with some very promising updates as well, and a whole lot more, so let's get into it. First of all, let's talk about the port of the Batman Arkham Trilogy to the Nintendo Switch. The reason I want to talk about this is not to dunk on the Nintendo Switch, and certainly not to dunk on the devs of this port. I would imagine that just like everything else, they were rushed and given a really small budget. But my point is that the reason I want to talk about this is to spotlight the value of the Steam Deck. Now, that port of the Arkham Trilogy does go for $60 on the Nintendo Switch, and you would be forgiven for not knowing that on Steam it also goes for $60. That's because there are consistently sales for this bundle where you can buy this bundle at $7 for PC. Now, not only can you buy it for cheaper on PC, but it also runs better on PC handhelds than it does on the Switch. Ollie Mack from Digital Foundry shared a tweet with a video that shows Batman Arkham Knight specifically just running at terrible frame rates consistently in the low 20s, and then it dips to 0 FPS for a good 5 seconds in the video. Ollie Mack also shared screenshots that show not only is the frame rate bad, but the graphics quality is severely downgraded from what you might be used to. And I know, the Switch is the Switch, it's old, it's been around for a long time, but here's the deal, this is a port of a game from 2015. It should run better than this, or at least it should be optimized to run better than this. In any case, I ran this on the new Steam Deck OLED. I ran the benchmark just to get a feel for how it does run today in 2023 on a PC handheld. Mind you, a handheld that's not that much more expensive than the Switch. And for the benchmark alone, I got a minimum of 39 FPS with a maximum of 93 FPS and an average of 59. Everything was set to high, and I turned VSync off and disabled the frame limit just for this benchmark. And yeah, just like I said at the top, it really goes to show the value of the Steam Deck. There's an argument to be made that maybe they should have included Arkham Origin as opposed to Arkham Knight in that trilogy, and I think that's fair game. But honestly, all of these games run better on the Steam Deck than they do on the Switch. The Steam Deck does really well with those Gen 7, early Gen 8 games. And yeah, that was always going to be the case. I thought this was an interesting opportunity to spotlight the Steam Deck, especially because one day we will have a Steam Deck 2, and Steam Deck 2 will almost inevitably play the entire Steam Deck 1 library, but the future is not as clear for Nintendo's next console. Alright, next let's talk about PlayStation Remote Play. Of course, the Portal just came out a few weeks ago, but you likely know that there's been a way to stream PlayStation games to your Steam Deck for a while now. The best way is using Chiaki for Deck, which you can find on the Discover Store on the Steam Desktop mode. And I said it in the intro, but the Steam Deck does bring with it some benefits that the PS Portal just doesn't have. First of all, if you have a Steam Deck OLED, you have the upgraded Wi-Fi, which uses Wi-Fi 6E, and the PS Portal doesn't even have Wi-Fi 6, it's stuck at Wi-Fi 5. Of course, the Steam Deck OLED is itself an OLED display that goes up to 90 Hz, so those are two other big W's that the Steam Deck OLED has over the PS Portal. And of course, there's just the inherent benefit of being able to have your Swiss Army knife that'll play Steam games and emulated games all in one, as well as remote play to your PlayStation. Now, of course, I do think the PS Portal does have some benefits itself, being lighter than the Steam Deck, having a bigger screen than the Steam Deck, and also having uncompromising controls in the form of an actual DualSense. That said, the Steam Deck just got another point in its win column because Chiaki for Deck is being upgraded to use the Steam Deck OLED's HDR. This update has not been officially released yet, but people have been testing it, as you can see in this Reddit thread, and the results have been impressive. The OP to this thread said there is a pull request available with a build that supports full HDR. It's very simple to install. Tested last night for several hours playing Horizon Burning Shores, Final Fantasy XVI, Returnal. It's incredibly smooth, and with a good Wi-Fi connection to your deck, you can really crank up the bitrate. I was upwards of 60K with no stuttering. And he did provide instructions that are in a pull request that you can find in GitHub. But honestly, I recommend just waiting until this makes it to the main branch, which should be pretty soon now. If you've never used Chiaki for Deck and you want to set up remote play on your Steam Deck, I will provide a link to a video tutorial by Steam Deck Gaming down in the description, so definitely check that out if you're interested. But yeah, big W for remote play on the Steam Deck. That is pretty awesome. Are you playing any of your PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 4 library on the Steam Deck? Definitely let me know in the comments. Speaking of playing remotely, Valve just announced their Steam Link VR app for the MetaQuest 2, MetaQuest 3, and MetaQuest Pro, and this is kind of a big deal. So previously you were able to stream VR from your PC to a MetaQuest using apps like AirLink or Virtual Desktop or other solutions, but now you can just use the official Steam Link app that is available on the Meta Store, and I'm a little surprised that Meta allowed this. It feels once again like Valve has a Trojan horse, right? Like they're able to get the benefits of VR sales without having to have the risks of selling VR hardware. In any case, I think this is the push I needed for me to pick up a MetaQuest 3. I'm not excited about getting a Meta product, but I've been wanting a VR headset for some time. I've just been waiting for Valve's next headset, which I don't know, may not be coming for a while now. I was reading the PC Gamer article about this and they linked to a thread in Resetera where user Blue Manifest said, this makes it sound like Valve is just planning on supporting Facebook's headset more instead of making their own. And user Gothy responded, this is kind of where my head is at too. Meta conceding the PC VR space and Valve conceding the VR hardware area. Meta's focus is very clearly on standalone VR now, but have positioned the 128GB Quest 3 as being good for those looking for a PC VR headset. Valve must be very happy to support the most popular VR headset without needing to take any risk on hardware themselves while cementing their store as the place for PC VR. We know Meta's estimated BOM for Quest 3 means they're not making much, if any, money on the hardware side, which I'm sure is a game Valve is happy to watch from the sidelines. So yeah, I totally agree with this take from these two users on Resetera, and at this point I think I'm ready to jump in with the MetaQuest 3 so I can finally play some of those VR games I've been waiting to play. Now, I would just be doing that for myself, but definitely let me know if you would be interested in me making a video on my experience with that. Next up, there are a number of big updates to games, especially for the Steam Deck, that we should be taking a look at. First up is Baldur's Gate Act 3, which just received patch 5. So patch 4 just came out a couple of weeks ago, and patch 4 is the one that brought FSR 2.2, which really improved performance, especially in Act 3 of Baldur's Gate 3. This patch, patch 5, doesn't necessarily improve the frame rate anymore, but it does improve the overall stability with a lot less stuttering. I'll provide a link to DeckWizard's video that shows this in more detail, but I thought this was a really interesting update for one of the best games of the year. Speaking of big updates for one of the best games, Cyberpunk is getting a 2.1 update, and it is huge. It's adding a metro system that is actually interactive. There's 5 different metro lines. There are some boss fight improvements, replayable car races, and some new bike mechanics like flips, leans, and other tricks. This is also going to support DualSense on PC, which I always am a big fan of, so I'm curious to see how that gets incorporated for the Steam Deck itself. And they list accessibility features as just a small bullet point, but it's actually kind of a big deal. They're adding several different colorblind modes. There are new settings for subtitles like text size and background opacity. You can better modify the HUD elements and even control the intensity for the adaptive triggers on the DualSense. So overall, really good stuff. And I was surprised with Phantom Liberty and Update 2.0 that Cyberpunk 2077 still plays so well on Steam Deck. So I'm certainly excited to see this big update come to the Steam Deck as well. Steam Deck HQ is reporting that Sons of the Forest also got a big update that helps out the Steam Deck. This is patch 15 and now has the option to use FSR 2.0, and there's a new graphical preset for the Steam Deck. Noah from Steam Deck HQ says that from his minor testing on the Steam Deck, the patch seems to make Sons of the Forest much more playable on this device. With the default settings and FSR 2.0 set to balanced, he was able to play the game quite comfortably at 30 FPS, as he says. closing by saying that there is still a lot more to test, but it does seem like the game will be much more enjoyable on the deck with a higher visual fidelity possible. The game that caught my eye this week though is Lethal Company. Have you guys seen this game, by the way? It came out in October, but it's recently reached over 240,000 concurrent players. It has over 100,000 reviews and 98% of those are positive. I saw the trailer and I wasn't sure what to make of the game, but this review sold me on it. It says, "The Steam trailer really doesn't do this game justice. It's extremely early access right now, and the gameplay itself is nothing too spectacular yet, but the super dynamic proximity chat is what really makes this game for me. Hearing the muffled screams of someone getting choked out by a bug, followed shortly after by the panicked wails of another crew member running for their life, is likely one of the funniest things I have ever experienced in a video game. It truly is such a simple yet infinitely expandable mechanic that I'm really excited to see build upon in the future." That is sick, and I'm literally buying this game right this moment. Definitely let me know in the comments if you've already played this and what you think of it. I do have a few more Steam Deck updates. SteamOS 3.5.8 just dropped into preview, and it fixes one issue that I had, which is that the Steam in-home streaming had weird color problems, especially on the Steam Deck OLED. At the time, I just attributed it to the pre-release version of the software that I was on, especially because I had a review unit, but in any case, that does seem to be resolved now on preview. Valve also fixed a problem where the GPU was showing the wrong clock speed, either 400 or 1040 megahertz, and there are a couple other updates, but those are the big ones. I did also want to provide an update to you all from my last Deck News Roundup where I talked about some Steam Deck OLED issues or updates. One of the issues that people have been reporting on that I didn't get a chance to talk about in that video is that there is some audio crackling on the Steam Deck OLED when you're connected to the 3.5mm jack. Now, I was able to recreate this problem and it was more present and audible in my higher end IEM earbuds than in my lower end model. I took a look on GitHub and a lot of people are reporting this issue, and it appears that even Steam support is recommending a quote simple repair service to address this issue. That's unfortunate. Like I said, I was able to recreate the problem, and in fact it's happening on both my regular OLED and my limited edition, so it does seem like I'm going to have to put in a repair with Steam support. But overall, I just wanted to let you all know, just in case you were experiencing the same problem. Speaking of the limited edition Steam Deck, someone in the Fan of Deck Discord asked me to weigh my limited edition, and it turned out it is in fact even lighter than the regular Steam Deck OLED. The Steam Deck LCD is about 680 grams, the Steam Deck OLED is about 640, and the Steam Deck OLED LE is about 618 grams, at least mine is, so that is a considerable difference. That's going to do it for this week's Deck News Roundup. I have a lot of fun stuff planned for this month, so definitely watch out for that. Otherwise, I hope you're having a wonderful week. Deck Gang out. Goodbye.